Okay, I am live. Okay, just get everything just right. Hey, Patty. Hey, Deb. Okay, I am here and ready to have some fun with metal clay. I am using impression dies and some molds, silicone molds, and hi, Ruth. And some brass, actually some brass molds too. So I will show you all of those things. But this is one of my favorite things to do. It's so simple. You do have to have stuff though. All these techniques require stuff. More tools, more supplies. Um, but I use these for a variety of things. So and I've accumulated this stuff over a number of years. So I have a pretty good arsenal of stuff. Um, but as far as metal clay goes, there's lots of different techniques. This is one of the most simplest uh, uses of metal clay. It requires the least amount of fuss. Um, so maybe it almost feels like cheating because I'm not really building by hand, because I'm using these molds, but it allows you to using the molds allows you to create pieces that you couldn't quite get any other way. Um, well, maybe with sheet metal, but if you've worked with metal clay, I mean, it's moldable. You can do different things with it where you can't really do that with like solid sheet or wire. So uh, that's what I like about this. It's kind of easy. It's pretty instantly gratifying, and it can be pretty cool. So let me show you. Hi, Mary. Um, Let me show you what I'm talking about. I've got some of this stuff that I've made a while back, and some that I just made recently. Um, let's see if we can get you zoomed in here. Okay. These pieces that I'm showing you are made with impression dies. These are from a company called Potter USA. They make impression dies they make a lot of different jewelry making tools, but these specifically are wonderful for using with metal clay. Not all of them work as well as the ones that I'm showing you. You don't want to have super deep impressions because that means that you're going to be using a lot of clay in the thickness, and there again, you don't want super shallow ones either because a lot of times you won't get the imprint detail that you are looking for. So I'm going to show you these, but these are, like I said, pieces that I made with these Potter impression dies. And I particularly love this little one. This has got the seeds and the little flower pot, which I made this bracelet from or with. And then for the flowers, there was another impression die, this one right here, that has the flower choices, 4 different flower choices. These are great. These small ones are great because a lot of times when you're working with clay, you have just a little bit left over that you don't really have enough for a larger impression per se. So using those little bits of clay to make these little flower elements is really kind of cool. So you can do lots of different things with even little tiny bits of clay. Now I don't know if the video stopped on your end, if you are still seeing the broadcast, would you please put a comment? Oh, here we go. This Facebook, I'll tell you, I could rip my hair out because I don't understand what is happening or not happening. But hopefully you'll get a smooth reception. Okay. All right. So, hi, Suzanne. Okay. Thanks, Patty. The for whatever reason my screen on my laptop kind of just froze for a second, so I just didn't know if you were still seeing it or not. Hi, Donna. Hi, Kim. Hi, Antoinette. Okay, so we've got a nice group of people. So these are the potter dies, some of the potter dies that are completely usable for the clay. Now, there are also brass impression dies. These are typically from India. I know that there is someone on Facebook that sells a lot of these different brass dies. These are not good for use in a hydraulic press, but they are really good for using clay. So that's another option that you can use. And then there are impression or silicone molds. These particular ones I got from Cool Tools USA or US. That's right. Thank you, Kim, from Black Magic Silversmith Shop. She sells a lot of those. Okay. So then, like I said, these are from Cool Tools US. They have a ton of different silicone molds available. And then some I have gotten on Etsy. And all you have to do is type in a search for silicone molds, and a bunch of them come up. And you can, this is great for little, these are little succulents. You can make a bunch of different little things with those. And this is a little branch, tree branch. So there's tons of different things available out there. All right. So let me see. So we have those things as a starting point. And also today I'm going to try an experiment with candle wax or wax sealing dies. These are for making wax seals. And I had done a demo, I don't know, several months back on making wax seals. And I had purchased these little stampers, and there's a handle that goes on them. But I'm going to try to put some metal clay in these and see if these work as well as another option. So that'll be an experiment on today's demo as well. A little extra added in there. All right. So let's see here. So, I wanted to get back to some of these. This is one of the newer ones that I made, and it's thick, it's solid, it's nice. It's a nice weight. It would make a great pendant, but more of a petite size pendant. For me, a pendant like this size would get lost. I have too much real estate up here, so I need to have something a little bolder. So for me, these would make good earrings. They're not too heavy. I can't stand heavy earrings. But for someone more petite, this would make a great little pendant charm on there. There is, Potter has a couple of different impression dies, and these he calls the wax seals, these impression dies. And I really like these because they're like frames. You can use them as frames. And I did that with this. I don't know if you can see that so well. This is this little flower impression die. And I didn't quite have enough clay left over to fill the entire area here. So I just pressed it with what I had, and it was uh, just a thin little impression or a little piece of clay, and it fit perfectly inside this wax seal. So I thought that was kind of cool. I've done that. I've used both of these sizes of the seal sizes and put uh, another element inside and soldered them together. So they were separate. These were made two separate pieces, and then I soldered them together, just to be clear on that. But that worked out really well, I thought, for something small. Hi, Mary. Oh, good. Yeah, Kim, you have the wax seals too. Yeah, I think they're fun and they've got lots of possibilities. Actually, this is the size that goes with this one. So so it's an option. There's lots of fun to be had with that. I put in one of them. I put a little bat. I have these little bats that I made. I had put one inside of that. There, I have another impression that has like a little elk head. That looks real cute in there. There's lots of little tiny things that you could frame in that. Even one of the flowers you could put inside there, like one of these little single flowers. So there's lots of options, lots of possibilities. One of my newest little loves is this bunny. This little bunny. And where is he at? He's also a Potter impression die. Now, they do shrink. The clay shrinks when you fire it about 10%. So you're not going to get the size piece that your impression is. There's always going to be that shrinkage. So keep that in mind. Your piece will always be a little bit smaller, but they'll also be solid, which is kind of nice. It gives a nicer weight, and you don't have to worry about putting on a little back plate or anything because it's already in there. However, it does take a little bit more clay. There is that. So if you, well, I don't know if you can see or tell, but that is the fired piece compared to uh, the area. Uh, that shows you a little bit about how much it's shrunk in there. So you are going to get that shrinkage. There's no way around that. Okay, so let me put these aside. And yeah, another thing is you can solder on top of this. So I soldered a little bezel, a little sterling bezel on top of there, and that's very doable. So you can add to your pieces if you want. All right, let me set these aside, and then we will get started. If you have any questions as we go along, feel free to ask. And what I'm using, and I know my camera is backwards, but I'm using Art Clay Silver as my metal clay. I learned initially with Art Clay Silver, so I've just kind of stuck with it. I know there's many different brands out there, and whatever brand you like, work with that. I just am giving you directions on how I use this, but I think all of them are pretty similar. There may be a few differences, but probably not all that much. I am using a non-stick hand conditioner for my hands because my hands are like alligator skin. They get super dry with all this stuff that I do. And so it's good to have something on your skin so that the clay doesn't stick to your skin because it will. It will get into all your little dry spots, and that's like a real waste of money because you want to use your clay on stuff and not on your hands. So I'm using that for my hands, and also I'll put a little bit of this on my working surface, just a little bit. Like just figure like when you're baking and you want to grease a cookie sheet or whatever, just put a little bit. It doesn't need to be a ton, just enough so it's non-stick. For my molds, I'm going to use Cool Slip. It's just another uh, material for, so that it doesn't stick to your metal. However, I haven't really had much problem with the clay sticking in the molds. I might spray them once and then I won't, and do multiple pieces and not spray again. So the jury may still be out on that. I don't know. I don't know that you have to spray for each one. I really don't want to incorporate that much of this stuff in your clay, but I think a little bit is fine. What did I put on my fingers? Oh, I'm sorry. This is called Nature's Touch, but there are other brands out there. There is this is put out by Eurotool. There's Bag Balm. You can use that. You can use olive oil. Personally, I love olive oil like in cooking, but I don't know. Maybe the smell of it or something on my hands, I don't like that, but it's absolutely doable. And you could actually brush that in your molds too if you wanted to, and not buy another anti-stick agent. So that is doable. But Patty, there's other brands out there, but this is the one I get. So it's Nature's Touch. What else? I will be using a craft knife. My God, my brain. Craft knife. And I have some Teflex sheets. They're non-stick sheets that if you look up metal clay supplies, you'll find them in there. But honestly, there is a roll of this stuff. I've bought it before, like at Michael's or Joann's in the craft section. I think, well, I don't know if it was, I don't think it's a Tim Holtz product, but something like that. It comes in a roll and it's like, I don't know, less than $20, and you can cut up a ton of these sheets if you want to. It's a lot less expensive to buy it that way if you want, and they're good for all kinds of crafts. You can paint on top of them, you can do resin on top of them, so they're kind of multi-purpose. But anything that I use the metal clay for, I just keep those as dedicated for metal clay. Ruth, you use coconut oil. That's great too. So, there are things that you can use that you don't have to spend big bucks on, unless you already have those things. What else? I have a very tiny set of diamond files. I bought these in Las Vegas at the Glass Craft Expo, probably around 2013 or 14 maybe. I have not been able to find them since. Not this size. They do have diamond files that they sell a little bit larger than this, but I really like these little teeny ones. And if you could find them, I would jump at the chance to grab them. Because they're just really handy. They get in all those little tight, teeny spots. They're wonderful. But the larger set will work too. And the other thing that I use a lot of are 3M sponges. These come in different grits, in the sanding grits. I think they're like ultra fine, fine, and maybe medium. I don't think I would use anything a rougher grit than that. They come in sheets, probably 4x6, something like that, and I chop those up too into small usable pieces. So that's another thing that I use. I will also use a fluffy paintbrush, dry, and of course I don't have that within my reach. That's always the case, but it's just a flat, a fluffy paintbrush that I dust my clay off with after I have filed it. Yeah, those will work, Patty. They're 4 inches tall. I have a set that's a little larger as well, but since I have these little teeny ones, I tend to go for those all the time. But the other ones will work fine. Um, and a lot of times when you're doing this particular technique using the impression molds, you're not going to have all those little tiny crevices. There are a few things, like when I do the little bats, their wings, there's little areas in the wings that you have to kind of get into. That helps a lot. Um, but a lot of them are just straight edges or smooth edges that you could really use one of these little sanding sponges for uh, the bulk of your sanding. How long are mine? Mine are 3 inches from top to bottom, from tip to tip. They're 3 inches. Okay, so 4 is good. That's still very good. Um, the other thing you'll need, well, you need all your soldering stuff too, but we're not going to get to that for a while. Um, I've been buying the clay in the 50-gram packages, and one reason is cost, and the other one is I like the fact, and I didn't realize when I bought my first 50-gram, I thought, boy, that's a lot to use in one sitting, and I don't want it to dry up because I've never had success keeping my clay moist for very long after I open a package. So I usually, well, I always now, when I open a package, I finish it. But the nice thing about the 50-gram is it comes in two 25-gram packages. So all I'm committed to is using the 25 grams at one sitting. So that's a thought. I don't know about other clays, how they come, how they're packaged, but I think that this is a great way to work with your clay. So when I open the package, there are two 25-gram packs in here. So I'll put one back in the package and seal it up. And then I also put that inside another Ziploc bag. But I've had some of this clay for a long time, and I've never had it go hard on me. So, that's always a good thing. Although if your clay does get hard over time, you can reconstitute it. And I have a demo on that too. It's an old one, but it's still available to be seen if you wanted to buy that. I mean, to watch that. All right. So like I said, I'm going to put this package aside and just concentrate on this 25 grams. Hi, Becky. Hi, Sandy. Oh, good. Okay, Becky, thanks. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I mean, otherwise you're committed to a lot of clay to use at one time. And I've bought the clay keepers and the jars and the different things, and it either, well, it mostly gets moldy. And mold you can deal with because you can actually work with it moldy and still fire it and it comes out okay. But it's just gross. It's gross to look at. Or you can kind of scrape it off, but when you do that, you're scraping some of the clay off there too. So, um, that's why I just would rather use the whole amount of clay at one sitting. Mary's asking if I can share the link to rehydrating the old clay. Yes, I will do that. hopefully I will remember to do that. If I don't, just remind me, Mary. Um, yeah, it's really kind of cool because it's not an exact science, but I've done it several times, and I have an old coffee grinder, electric coffee grinder that I have dedicated just for that purpose, and it works out great. It just it's not something that you can use immediately, at least not in my experience. I seem to get it a little too wet, so it takes a little while to dry up a little bit of that extra moisture, but it does work. All right. Let's see. All right. So I hadn't really planned on what exactly I was going to demo as far as the shapes. Um, but I guess we could just play around with it and see. All right. So let me turn the camera down. I also have one of these clay cutters. It's just like I don't know, I guess it's stainless little blade, which is nice for nice straight cuts that you can use. This is my Teflex sheet that I'm going to use today. I have cut into it a little bit. When you are trimming your clay, try not to cut through into the Teflex if you can avoid it. I also have these little cards. They're like I think I got these through Cool Tools as well. And I place my little pieces like that into the hydrator. That's generally how I dry my clay. But you can use a candle warmer, like a little electric candle warmer. I'm going to use that today during the demo. And just be careful. I usually put a piece of Teflex on top of the candle warmer and then put my pieces on there to dry. The candle warmer can get pretty hot, so I would keep an eye on that. Okay, so I'm going to just put a little bit of this conditioner on my Teflex. The rest can go on my hands. Okay. All right. So let's see. What should I make? I think I might want to make another one of these hearts. I do want to try these little wax impression molds or wax stampers. Also, I haven't used this one before from Cool Tools, so I'll try to use one from each category. I made this grasshopper one time, and it was really pretty neat. Came out really cool, but it took a lot of clay. Okay, Becky says, for your information, I have used the Project X X20 rehydration to help bring back rock hard clay to be able to condition and use. Well, that's good to know. That is good to know. All right. Okay, so I'm going to just put a tiny bit, keep a paper towel handy here too. When you spray these molds, there's overspray always, so kind of protect your area. And I am just going to wipe off the top. I just want that lubrication in the mold, and I don't want too much. So I'm going to do that. I will also spray this one. This is pretty rough inside when I rub my finger against it. I'm not really sure how that's going to work out, but I'm going to give it a try just to see if that works. And what else? I really love this desert scene. So I'm going to do that. I didn't wipe it all off. It just came off on the top surface. And maybe I'll make, oh, I can make another, we'll see how far that 25 grams goes. I always try to get the most because that stuff's not cheap. It is not cheap at all. All right, so let's go from here. So open my clay. It comes protected pretty well. There's another seal or another plastic wrap over this. And I'm going to put a little bit more conditioner on my hands because they are dry. Dry, dry, dry. Okay. And I'm going to just tear off. Make sure you get every bit. If it's stuck on the cellophane, scratch that off and save that too. Use that too, I mean. Don't want to waste it. I'm only taking a portion of it out. And we'll put the rest back in here while I'm working. If your hands tend to be dry or hot, I should say hot, your clay may dry out a little bit faster. And I don't do a lot of conditioning because I don't feel it needs it when it first comes out of the package. At least not for this particular technique. Now this is the wax, the small wax seal. And I just push the clay in with my thumb. And I try to get it down there as far as I can into the mold. And then I'll just put one of these little sheets on top and then give it a little press with the bottom of another mold, or die, I should say. And there you get the wax seal. Okay. Now I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm going to trim. I'm going to trim around here as closely as I can. And get all the excess off. And I want to make sure that I keep my craft knife straight up and down so that I don't get any undercuts in the clay. The cleaner that you can cut it or trim it right now will save you time later when you're sanding and refining. You want to get all those little extra bits off if you can, because that's all still usable. Okay, so let me turn my Okay, I just turned on my cup warmer. I should have had that on already, but I forgot. So that's my first piece of the wax seal. Easy enough. And I'm just going to lay that on. It's a nice thickness. It's not too thick. It's not too thin. It'll be a nice seal, a nice piece. All right. I think I'll make. Let's try this just for the heck of it to see if it works. Because some of these are so cool. Maybe I'll try this one first because it's smaller for one thing. All right. Aren't these wax seals nice? They really are. This one's little mushrooms. It's like a little cluster of mushrooms. And this one's a little bunny. I'm not sure how the detail will show on that, but they're really beautiful. These I got on Etsy, and there again you could just do a search for wax seals, and there's lots of choices and there's lots of price points. So check them all out because you may overpay on some sites, as I did. And then after I investigated it a little bit more, I found some that were much more affordable. All right, so I'm just gonna. The other thing too, I've found that when I'm using clay is a lot of times you'll get like creases in it, little cracks or whatever. It's not dry, it's just because you've been working with it. I find that if I kind of smudge it a little bit with my fingers, I get rid of those. So that might not be any news to some people, but uh, I thought it worked pretty well. I don't know if I'm gonna do this. Oh, oh, that's gonna, I think, got possibilities. Let me redo that because I really should have had a little bit bigger piece of clay, I think, for that. This actually might be really nicely done inside of one of these wax seals. That might be kind of cool. Let me try this. Now, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. Oh, it did. It sure did. But I want to find a way to capture this a little bit better. That would be good inside of one of these. All right. For shits and giggles, let's try another one. This one's pretty deep, though. This will take more clay than what I have here. But I'm just experimenting right now. And that's the other thing. People have asked me, well, do you let this clay dry in the mold? Well, you don't. You have to peel it out, and you can either peel it back with your finger very gently, or you can help, like a craft knife can help you lift up the edge. Oh, yeah. Look at that. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. All right. Only thing with this is I don't have a clear margin for the edge. So there again, this is going to take a little more clay. I'm trying to be conservative, but you know, you don't want to be stupid either as far as uh, being chintzy on it and then regretting it later. All right. Let's see how this will do. I didn't put my circle templates on the table, and that would have been a good idea to do. Just to get the right shape. Oh, crap. I dropped it, so I have to redo that. And really, you know, you can't dilly-dally too long with these things because you will dry out your clay. And I don't want to make it so thick that I'm using up my clay for other projects. You don't need to have uh, a tremendous amount of thickness on these. Pushing that down a bit. Now I'll try to be a little more careful. There you go. That's beautiful. Totally worth it and can be done. So let me grab my circle template. Okay, just right behind me. Get this stuff out of the way. So this is the 1 1/8 inch. Oh, I'm excited. I'm going to take my craft knife on the dull side and just trace very slowly and not deeply. You want to do it on the not cutting side, on the opposite side, so you don't cut your template. Okay, let's save that little bit. This took up a lot of clay, just so you know. But I am really happy that that worked. Let's set this aside till I'm ready for it again. Debbie, I don't know. I guess I should try the needle tool again. I have one, but it seemed like I was getting too much drag from it. So I guess like I said, I should try it again and see if that would work a little bit better. Now I'm going to transfer this very carefully to my little sheet here and then put that on the cup warmer. Now I have a dehydrator that I normally dry all my clay pieces with, but it's on another part of the room. And I didn't want to disconnect it and bring it over here, so I'm just using the cup warmer for now. All right. I am smitten and excited with these because it's something different and it's cool. Let's try. I'm changing directions. Gina, yes, it did. It did. I'm glad that you reminded me because I had totally forgotten that I said I was going to try that out with the seals. So I'm glad you reminded me. I think it's definitely a winner. I'm going to try now with this one with the trees. I don't think I'll have enough clay to do both, but that would be the piece stuck in here. That would probably be a nice addition to have these trees soldered on top of the larger wax seal. Hi, Suni. Hi, Tammy. Tammy, are you talking about these brass ones? These are wax seals. The other ones, you know, are Potter dies that I'm using. And also I've got some silicone dies. I was going to do this one in silicone. They basically act the same way. But let's see here what I've got. I did not spray this one. So I'm going to try that. Those little mushrooms, I think they're adorable. And hopefully I'll have enough for both. Get this extra clay out of here. I know it's just little bits, but every little bit adds up. And with your crumbs and all that stuff, the dry stuff, make sure you save all of that because you can recycle it in the, I'll show you what I mean. I have a jar that I keep all my metal clay dust and little bits and pieces that were either little failures or just little pieces that were left over. Okay. All right, so this is all I have left on this package. And I really wasn't planning on opening up the other one today. I like to keep some in reserve in case I happen upon something and want to have clay for it, because let's face it, this stuff's not cheap. I'm pushing that down. Oh, beautiful impression. Beautiful. Oh, yeah. I would like to make it a little bit thinner, though. And trying to put your piece back in and lining it up is like impossible. You know, it's just not going to ever work. Still want to try this one again. I really pushed this one down. I don't know if that was smart or not. Oh yeah. Now see, this could get trimmed. This, if I use the wax seal, I can trim all of this clay out. I wouldn't have to do that. I'm just saying I might want to do that. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this or not, but I'm going to play around here. And you can, like I said before, I want to trim as much as I can of the raw clay because I can still reuse that. Um, and it makes less filing work later if you trim up nicely to begin with. And be careful with your fingernails. I trimmed mine before the demo because they were getting pretty long, and that's one thing that can really you can mess up your clay by stabbing it with your fingernails unintentionally. And I may not like this. I may decide that this was not what I want to do, but I wanted to try it. Now it will shrink, of course, and when I get like really close to some of this stuff, I have to stop myself because I can just file that with the files and it will come out a lot neater. But I think that once it's fired and shrunk a little bit, will fit nicely in this wax seal. I'm playing dangerously here, but I think that that would be kind of cool. All right. I think I should leave it. This will be one for the experiments. And I can get in between those little trees, filing in between with those little tiny files to give this some separation, more definition. I would have liked it if I could have made this a little bit thinner so I could have used less clay. I don't know if I should redo it or not. That's a thought. I don't know. Decisions. I'm going to just mess it up. Don't gasp. I do this crap all the time, so it's not too surprising or shocking to me. Debbie, I never measure cards. You can go ahead and do that if you want. I don't know. I'm a person that just kind of flies by the seat of my pants all the time. I can't get too involved, so to say. I just would rather kind of play around with it. So I can't tell you how many cards thick it would be. I think part of the attraction to me is that you can just press this stuff into the mold. You don't have to worry about the thickness. I'm starting to dry out here a little bit, which I'm not surprised because I've been goofing around with this clay for a while. Yep, the bunny came out too. He doesn't have really great definition. Well, he does and he doesn't, but I think like liver of sulfur would really bring that out. So I'm going to say it's an absolute yes on these wax seals. But see, this is just how I do it. So I don't pre-measure any thickness because I want to make sure that it's all going to go down into the recesses of the mold. And I think if it were pre-measured, it would get very thin, maybe. I don't really know. Excuse me. I'm just pushing that down to thin it out a little bit more and also to even it up. Very gently peel this up. If you press too much, you can actually break off the clay. So I'll do this one. And then I have another package of clay that had I think a 5-gram bonus pack in there. So I'll open that up and maybe do the trees with that one. Although those little mushrooms were kind of cute too. Let me tell you guys, I have so many pieces of metal clay things, little elements, solderable elements in a bag. I have several bags of them, little baggies, Ziploc baggies, that I've never done anything with. And I don't know really how I'm ever going to use them. But I sure do like making this stuff. And then I'm going to have to stop doing this because I need to get on to the other aspects of working with this clay. So this one can get transferred over to the cup warmer to dry. And let me just finish this off. I bought a bonus pack that has the 50 grams, and then it gives you a 5-gram bonus. And I think I got this on Amazon. I try normally to buy from websites from people that are selling it, but sometimes you find a really good deal, and I'm just like anybody else who wants a good deal. Okay, this is the little 5 grams, and I think I'll be able to make that tree line with it. Oh, it's right in front of my face. Okay. Then I need to check comments because I haven't looked for a while. Boy, this was stuck. Oh, not bad. All right. Add that to my other clay. Ah, stuck to my finger. I really like those. I'll try this again. That just opens up a whole nother rabbit hole for these wax seals. Probably not being as careful with this as I could be, but time is a factor. You know, 5 grams goes. It's pretty good. You can make something. When you think about it, it doesn't seem like 5 grams would do much, but it can. It kind of smushed the impression a little bit. I kind of pressed it kind of hard. But that's okay because I don't want a lot of thickness on this because it's already going to be put on top of another piece of clay. But I like the option of doing this. How it fires, you know, and the size that it's going to turn out, it will yet to be determined, but I have a feeling it will work out okay. And I can always trim it a little bit more with my flex shaft if need be to get it to fit in there. Okay, so I still have a considerable piece left. All right. I'm going to move this over to my coffee or my mug warmer and let that dry. All right, I'm going to use up this last bit, and then I'm going to check for questions or whatever you might have. And even if I don't get the entire impression in this, like I had said before, you can cut away parts just like I did with the trees, and then add them to something else. And that actually, I got the whole circle in. All right, so I'm going to trim that up. Boy, that's just in between. I'll go with this one. Okay, and this is all we're left with for 30 grams of clay. And it's probably too small. Well, maybe not. I can either put it in the scrap jar it's getting dry, but it will make a flower. Let me move this out of the way. And look at that. Now see, I didn't even put any spray in that, and it just came right out. So I feel like I've made a good use of the 30 grams of clay that I had to work with. And I got a lot of pieces out of it. And some of them are pretty darn thick, like the butterfly. The butterfly is very thick. And then these little crumbs just go in here. And it might seem silly, to save them, but I'll tell you, they add up over time. And when you're able to reuse it, either by rehydrating it or sending it in to recycle, that's nice. Okay, so I'm going to move on now. I've got all of my pieces on this card here that we did so far today. That's 30 grams of clay. And they're going to dry. Now I'm going to take the ones that I did a few days ago. Get that garbage out of here. All right. I did a few pieces a few days ago, just so I had something to show you as far as how to clean these up. Well, let me look at the messages or the comments if there's anything I need to address. Leah Wilson, hello. Oops. That is the 4-flower shot plate from Potter. It is. No, Suni, I never mix clays. I only use the art clay silver. It's fine silver, not the 925. But no, I would think that they have different properties, maybe different firing times. I don't know, but I wouldn't mix. Okay, let's see here. Deb Henry, yes, I think it would look good on a 3-dimensional piece. I think you are right. The stampings vary in thickness, Suni. I try to get them as thin as I can, but they're still on the thick side. But actually, if you were using it for a pendant or whatever, you wouldn't want them paper thin anyway. And sometimes when the clay is really thin, it can warp a little bit. Most of the time you can fix that with a rawhide hammer, but not always. And it depends what your design is. So that doesn't always work. I sprayed the impression dyes, all of them, whether they're the silicone or the brass or the steel. I sprayed them all with the same thing, this Cool Slip. I mentioned earlier you could use olive oil if you wanted, or coconut oil. That's always a possibility. I mean, you could do that. Just put a very, very, very thin either spray or thin coat on the dyes. Yeah, it is the Cool Slip that I'm using. Okay, I think I got the comments. All right, so now I'm going to sand these impressions. I don't know if I'll do all 4 of them because I guess I took longer than I imagined I would doing the clay, which is fine, but I tried to keep my demos about an hour and a half, and I'm getting up there. All right, so I'm going to be using the 3M sanding sponge. And I reuse these a lot, so sometimes the grit will get worn down over time. So you might need a new one every now and then. That's a nice new one. So I'm going to be using the 3M. I think this is a fine. This is the fine. And I'm going to be using my little mini files. I generally just use, there's like a half round, a flat and a half round. I use that one a lot. And I'll use this completely round one like when I'm getting into tight areas like on this bat. Excuse me. I'll have to get in there with something very fine and round. So that is a great tool for that. And I have a wax seal that I did earlier. It's dry. One way to tell, and I didn't put it on the table here, but if you're drying your pieces, say with a cup warmer, or if you're letting it air dry, or even in the dehydrator, you want to make sure that your pieces are completely bone dry. If there's any moisture at all in the piece that you're going to apply a flame to, it's going to bubble, pop, that kind of thing, and it's going to mess it up. So uh, take the extra time, make sure that they're nice and thoroughly dried. Um, okay, I'm going to turn the camera down. Suni, when the pieces are fired, you can't really reshape them other than, like, say, if you're using your flex shaft and you want to um, smooth off a little piece or take a little extra metal off of an area. I mean, you can do that to some degree, and you can dap them, but it's fine silver, so you don't want to dap them too much that you're damaging the design. If you have a design on your piece, which most likely you will, um, you want to be careful with that kind of stuff. But this is still in a very fragile state, but it's actually a little bit more durable than you might think. But I would still handle it gingerly, not uh, put too much pressure on the piece. But you have to hold on to it because you have to file it. So you'll get the feel for it after you do it a few times. In the little recessed areas, I'll use my file just to make sure that they get the right definition. This has got that half round edge on it. And also I'll lay it on its back side and give it a little bit of a little file that way, just to make sure that the back is nice and flat, which it should be, but I just like to do that just to make sure that it is. But these little sponges are great. The extra fine are probably all I ever use. I don't use any thicker. They come in other grits, but I just don't have the need for it in clay. If there's any type of a little seam, little ridge, you want to get that sanded off so that doesn't show. Although that's an area that you could take your flex shaft and smooth that off or grind it off if you didn't do it ahead of time. One nice thing about the filing like this, the sanding, is that you're getting clay, reusable clay that you can put in your little scrap jar. But once you're like on a flex shaft, you're kind of going to lose most of that. So, I mean, that's not a big draw, but it's just something to be aware of. Just make sure that it's filed real nice and smooth. This is where I need the paintbrush. That was eluding me. Here it is. No, it isn't. Here it is. Okay. Here's the paintbrush, and I want to dust all of that excess clay dust off. Okay, and then I can put this aside. It's ready to be fired. And I'll do one more. I'll do I'll do this little desert scene, because this one has a little hanging jump ring on it, or bail, whatever you want to call it. And I'll show you how I do that one. Get your edges real nice, because that does show seams on the edges. But that's where, when you're working with the fresh clay, when you take off, when you trim it with your craft knife, that's where it saves time in sand, that you don't have to sand so much if you trim it nice and as clean as possible when it's fresh. This one took the lines of the dehydrator a little bit. They show on there on the back, but I'm not really concerned with that. I do want to be careful with this little ring, though. I want to make sure I don't snap that off. Now, when I get up to this ring, I'm going to use my little file. And you want to be careful not to dig your file into the clay nearby. But I didn't trim that up real nicely. They're a little bit more fragile when the clay is fresh, and I didn't want to disturb it too much. So even if I don't get a great finish now, I can still do it on the flex shaft without fear of breaking this off. Now, when I get into this little hole, I do want to clear this out a little bit. I want to get in very carefully. Just kind of twist that little needle file in the hole just to expand it just a little bit. Because there's, again, I can do this after it's fired too. And I round the corners just a tiny bit rather than having them real sharp edges. Just round them out just a little bit. Dust that all off. And I'll set that aside to fire. Okay. So I'm just going to do those two pieces so you get the idea of what I'm talking about sanding. Now, another tip is all this stuff that you just filed. You can put that in your scrap jar. And you can also take this little sponge and look at all that clay that's coming off. And that goes right into the scrap jar. Okay. All right. Let me move over to the soldering area. Let me just look here. So Sandy, you're saying, so basically what you have when dry is what you'll get after firing. It never worked. I've never worked with PMC. Yes, except it's going to shrink. It's going to shrink about 10%, but it's going to look exactly like what it is dry. All right, let me get my solder stuff. I have a little quench cup, and I have a micro torch. That's all you need for silver clay. A really strong bushy flame is not so great with um, fine silver. At least this is fine silver clay. I want to put a little bit of butane in my torch because I was using it yesterday and I didn't refill it when I was done. So I'm just putting some butane in there. I hate the smell of it. Yeah. Okay, keep that can far away. I have a timer that I'm going to set for 2 minutes. All it takes is 2 minutes. I have a soldering board. I have a pair of tweezers. And I'm going to turn my fan on because I forgot to do that. All right. So we're ready to roll. Here is my wax seal. And I also use a relatively clean soldering board that doesn't have any flux on it, any dried flux or anything. So it's nice and clean for that. And got my timer set for 2 minutes, but I'm not gonna set the timer until I start to get a very slight, very, very slight orange tinge. When I first apply the flame, the clay is going to get little flames on it. There is a binder that's in the clay, and that catches on fire. That is normal. That's supposed to happen. Sometimes the fire is a little bit larger than others. It's no matter. You just keep an even heat circulating your flame around your piece for the entire 2 minutes. If you see that your piece is getting shiny, like a silver shiny, you're putting too much heat. You're too close to the piece. You need to back up your flame a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to melt your piece. So you want to keep that in mind. It's really pretty straightforward. You just have to pay attention. It's only for 2 minutes. And you can't do like huge pieces. If you're going to do huge pieces, you need to fire them in a kiln. These are good. The torch method is great for up to about a 50-cent piece. And after that, like I said, you need the kiln. I really prefer doing it with the torch. I don't usually do that many pieces at one time, so it's not a big deal for me to do it this way. But if I was doing production work, had a lot of stuff to do, a kiln would be the answer for that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and light the flame, and you'll see what's about to happen. So now it's starting to smoke. We're going to get a flame in a minute. There we go. And then that's it. The flame goes out. It turns a whitish color. And as it heats, it's going to start to get a little bit of an orangey. There it goes. It's hard to tell on camera probably, but it was starting to get a little orange. It also is curling up just a little bit. That's okay. It will settle down. It'll relax as it gets fired, and it'll go back to being flat. So I just keep that heat circulating. It's going to be a little more orange. That's fine. You want it to be that way. That way you know it's cooking. It has to what they call sinter, and that means that it's like cooking all the way through. If it isn't sintered or cooked properly, it could break. It could break in half, and if you looked at it inside, you would see that there was um, uh, still the clay material inside. It hadn't turned all the way to silver into the metal. Now it's getting very close to where it might turn kind of silvery, so I want to back my heat off just a little bit. I still want to maintain that orange color, but I don't want it to become, you know, real silvery, slick looking puddle, that kind of thing. You just keep the heat going all the way around. Not terrifically fast, but not super slow either. You want to make sure you're hitting the whole piece. And that's why, the size of the piece matters as far as being too large. It might not have enough heat to really cook through properly. Okay, timer's off. Timer's up. So cut the heat. Okay. I'm going to take my piece to the edge here. And grab onto it. It has shrunken a little bit, like I said it would. And now I just give it a second and then I quench it. All right. So for comparison, you can see how much is shrunk. They say 10%. I don't know. I can't really gauge that, but that's what they say it is. The people that put out the clay, they say it's about a 10% shrinkage rate. So now, well, let me do the other one and then I'll proceed. Now make sure your hands are dry and you don't pick up the piece with the tweezers that were just wet. I'm going to put that on the same hot spot there. It doesn't matter though. I'll reset it for 2 minutes. Get the smoke, now the flame. I hope you can see that. This piece is a little bit bigger and a little bit thicker than the wax seal, but it's still going to get the same time. It's starting to turn a little orange glow, so I just turned on the timer. It's also starting to curl a little bit. That's okay. Like I said, it will relax and lay back down. starting to lay back down again. And if it wouldn't, like I said earlier, if it doesn't go completely flat, which it normally does, but if it doesn't, you can give it a little whack with your rawhide hammer or a nylon hammer so it doesn't damage the piece. I just love this little desert scene. It's just so pretty to me. Now, some of the designs in the impression dies um, may not come out quite as crisp as if you were doing it pressed metal in the hydraulic press. So you need to kind of keep that in mind. That's why not all impression dies are going to work as well as others for the metal clay. They're all great for sheet metal, but not always for metal clay. It's gone back and laid down nicely. Okay. Okay. So that's super hot. I always give it just a couple of seconds before I stick it in the water to cool it off. Is I have a brass brush and some water. I would do this normally at the sink, but I have a brass brush and I'm going to just, because it turns kind of white, the metal turns white with the fire, but that comes off, that white comes off. And having a soft brass brush is the way to go with that. It doesn't do it perfectly as far as take off all the white. You can get most of it, but I always put these in the tumbler afterwards. After I make sure that I don't need any other adjustments, sometimes, I might want to enlarge the hole a little bit on this charm. So I'll do all of that refinement and then stick it in the tumbler. Or, you might want to put some liver sulfur on there, give it a patina. That always brings out the design a little bit nicer, a little sharper. But that shines it up a little bit, not all the way. But if I was going to solder another element on top of that, I would get it cleaned up to this point, and then solder the other piece on. I would add, even though it's fine silver to fine silver, and theoretically you don't need flux, or solder, I'm sorry, I would still put a little flux and solder on there to make sure that the pieces stick together. And I would probably go with an easy solder, or even an extra easy solder, depending on what it is you're joining together. And I would probably use a heat source below the piece, like put it up on a tripod in a mesh screen, something like that, just to make sure that you don't melt the design, the piece that's on top. Okay. So these are the two that I took to completion of the pieces that we did today. So let me check for comments. And, I would just proceed with all the pieces like that, sand them all, fire them, and refine any pieces that might need it. Okay, let's see. Hey, Judy. Yes, Mary, the binder is burning up. That's what that flame is. It's very, very momentary. It Doesn't last at all, long at all. Um, Mary Caldwell, as far as the stability, either way, I think they're both the same. I've not had any issue uh, either way. As long as you know that you've had it on the required amount of time, um, it should be no problem at all. Suni, no, I wouldn't. It's if it's really deep, it's going to take a lot of clay. That piece that you're going to make turns out to be way more expensive because you're using most of the clay in a deep piece. Um, if that makes sense to you. I mean, you can get a bunch of small pieces, maybe out of the same amount of clay that you're putting into one piece. So that makes that piece much more expensive. But as far as the technique or tips for that, uh, I don't know. You'll see when you put the clay into that impression and the lion's face, if when you take it out, if it has the detail that you want. Um, like I said, some of them are disappointing. Um, the bunny, for example, is pretty deep. And when you compare it to a bunny that's been pressed in sheet metal, it has all the fine lines, details, all of that. Well, when I pressed the bunny in that die, a lot of like his facial features came out, but the fur lines didn't come out. The lines that were on his body didn't come out. Now I remedied that by using my hammer handpiece, and I gave him some texture, which makes him look like he has fur. But I have a hammer handpiece. Not everybody has one, but I'll tell you, in my opinion, a hammer handpiece is worth its weight in gold when you're doing stuff like this, because especially in clay, you may have some surface defects here and there, and you can put on, well, let's say for example, this pair, this piece, this earring piece that I did. On this part, it was just the plain silver background behind the clay pot or behind the potted plant. I don't know if you can see that very well, but the plain shiny silver looked like it was wavy, but it really wasn't. But it had that look and it annoyed me. So I just hit it with the hammer handpiece all the way around the background, and it concealed it all. So it kind of can, um, mask little imperfections. You are going to get that little spark. Well, it's not really sparkly, but it can kind of give that look, that detail. Um, and I think it's great. I think it's a great remedy. It's a texturing effect. Whether you have a defect or not, you could use it just for the different texture effect. Um, the hammer handpiece attaches to my flex shaft. You take off the normal handpiece that's on the flex shaft, that pulls out, and you put the hammer handpiece in, and it's just a whole different animal. But there's two different kinds, and I believe the one that I have is the H15. I can check on that if anybody's interested in finding out more about a hammer handpiece. The H15 does a little bit more than the other one, or there's some other quality to it, and it's maybe $15 more than the other one. So it's like, go for it. Um, Let me see here. Thank you, Tammy. I love that little bunny too. Um, Suni, it can be the answer for the Potter dies, but like I said, not all of them work very well with it. There are some that are going to be terrific, and some not so much. I know I tried to do a mandala impression die, and it was just so fine. and shallow that I could not get a good print. I just couldn't. So hopefully you won't buy dyes with the hopes that it's going to work out, um, and that maybe you can use it some other way. Um, but some of these that I've tried today, they're tried and true. They work. I'm super excited for these little wax seals. I really like that. I'm easily amused. You guys should get that by now. Um, okay. Yeah, I think it's the H15 on there. And I just hope uh, that I'm not missing anybody's questions. Judith, you say, could you put the metal clay piece in the die and press it? Uh, yeah, no, that's not going to work because it's already fired. It's already shrunk. It's just not gonna register the right way. So that'd be great if it would, but no. That Okay. All right. Oh, good, Sandy. Thank you. I enjoy when you guys are here with me. I do. It makes it more fun for me. I mean, even though I'm talking into the camera and looking at myself, I know you guys are there, and when you have questions and stuff, if I can answer them, I always enjoy doing that. Not all of my demos are going to be for everybody. I do a lot of different things, and some things will appeal to some, and others won't. I get it. That's just how it is. But I enjoy sharing, doing what I do, and I don't have all the answers. I still learn stuff every day that I'm working. I always do something dumb, but I learn from it, and I just find another dumb thing to do. So um, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I have um, Patty's saying if you're okay with the solid lion's head, you're better off. Wait a minute, where'd that go? You're better off melting the solid piece of silver and then pressing. The most detail you'll get is for the metal to be pressed in a press. That's true. That is true. Okay. Okay. Um, Next up, I'm going to do hoop earrings. Over the weekend, I made a few pairs of hoop earrings and different sizes and with different metals. I'm excited about showing you guys that. And then my friend Deb Henready uh, sent me a picture of some little snowmen made with salt shakers, like at midnight last night or close to it. I don't know. It was late, and I love them. I love them, but I have to find all the stuff, and I don't think I'll have enough time to do a demo in the meantime. It's too close to Christmas, but I may do some and then just kind of pop on and show you. But uh, Deb and I have been talking about all the little different things that we could do with them. So I think that I love when I get ideas like that, something that I've never seen before that I think is darling and doable. It has absolutely nothing to do with jewelry making, but they sure are cute. I'll post a picture of the one that I was sent and try to figure it out. They look pretty simple. It's just finding all the proper parts. So I think that's it. I ran over. That's okay. But I hope you got something out of this, and I will fire these other pieces probably tomorrow once I'm sure that they're nice and dry, and I'll come back and show you how they turned out, and then go from there. Then I'm going to start looking at more wax seals, damn it. It's always something, there's always some way to spend money. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the group, and I have a handout. I'll post that on there. I'll also post any Amazon links if I have any. for what I used today. And if I missed your question, I'm sorry. I'll look at them again in just a little bit, and I'll try to address that in the group. So, ta-ta for now. See you next time. Bye-bye.